Hello, I'm Kate Strong. Thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to celebrate International Self-Care Day. Self-care is a topic that I love to talk about. It's my passion. In fact, self-care is something that became a practice for me in my life, really out of necessity because of depression and anxiety. I was going through a divorce. I'm a single mom with 4 kids. And there were so many things, including like a faith transition, just a lot of things going on in my life. And what I realized is that I was just burning at both ends and I wasn't taking care of myself. And so it affects us and there are consequences. And I knew a lot about personal self-care, physical self-care, but as I really dove in, I learned that there's so much more. And so I'm so excited to share with you today my 5 pillars of self-care. I've invited all of the teenagers and young adults and their parents to join us today for free. This is a class that I usually teach in conjunction with my coaching program, and I am launching a digital course for self-care that is an option for people to go deep and really, really refine this. But today I just wanted to get on and share with you what is my secret, if you will, or what I practice and what I talk about with self-care so that I can give you a jump start so that you can create a custom plan for you today that speaks to you, that fits, that works. And then we're going to go on a self-care journey together and you get to join a community. And this is just where I really, really love to be able to show up for you and to share what I've learned. So thank you for being here. And we've got some exciting experts from all over the world who are going to share about the self-care pillars as well. So again, thank you for being here. This is just a sample of this detailed course that I do. But again, if you can just commit to being here and being present right now for the next hour, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to have a great takeaway of what you can do, how you can start, and just some simple things that you can start to incorporate into your life so it will be highly valuable, I promise. I do also host free monthly self-care webinars. And we go deep in those. We dive deep into each of the 5 pillars. And I'm also, again, just excited to announce that I'm launching my digital self-course this fall for even a deeper dive. So today, I just want to take the time, talk about these 5 self-care pillars, what each one is and why it matters. And you will have the pleasure of hearing from some of these experts. Again, they have come from all over. We've been doing Instagram lives for the last 2 weeks where you can go back if you'd like to follow me at Kate Strong World on Instagram, please do, and get some of that content for free to just soak up and take advantage of hearing from these experts. First of all, as we get started, I want to make sure that you have printed off. If you registered for this, you would have received a worksheet. It's a star, and it's going to help you customize your self-care program for you. So if you haven't already done that, check your email, maybe push pause, print that off and get it. If you haven't received that yet, go to my website. It's mystrongworld.com and go under events and you can click on the Self-Care International Self-Care and register, and we will send that self-care worksheet over to you so that you can get something out of today and like really walk away with something tangible that you've created. So make sure that you have that piece of paper. If not, grab a blank piece of paper. You'll want a pen for sure. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is I just want you to close your eyes. This is a practice I do frequently every day, at least once a day. It's a great way for you to connect with yourself, to just see how you're feeling and where you are. And so I want you to close your eyes. I want you to check in with yourself and just ask yourself with eyes closed, how am I feeling physically? And on a scale of 0 to 10, I'm going to invite you to just notice where you are. How are you feeling physically? A 0 would be like the worst. You're in so much pain. Your body's aching. It's hard to even sit still. And a 10 would be you're just feeling really awesome. You're feeling great. So no judgment, just notice. And now continuing to keep your eyes closed, I invite you to ask yourself, how am I mentally? What is going on in my head? Are you able to concentrate on what I'm saying, or are you somewhere else? Are you feeling thoughts of anxiousness? Or are you able to slow down the mind just a little bit and open up to curiosity? Doesn't matter where you are. Again, this is just an opportunity for you to connect and check in with you and see where you are and notice. So on a scale of 0 to 10, ask yourself, where am I mentally? Are my thoughts serving me, or are they criticizing me? Take an inventory, 0 to 10, where you are emotionally. So as you start to think about your emotions, it's how you're feeling. You might want to place your right hand on your heart. Feel your heart beating beneath your chest. Just ask yourself, how am I doing emotionally? 0 to 10. 0 might be that you're just in the dumps, or maybe you're not even feeling anything, you're numb. And a 10 would be you're allowing yourself to really feel whatever it is that you're feeling without judgment. Just noticing, where are you emotionally on a scale of 0 to 10. Now blink open your eyes and grab your pen or pencil and just write that down. Write down physically, whatever the number was, mentally, whatever your number is mentally, and then emotionally. When we check in with ourselves and we can kind of take a temperature of where we are and know where we are, it really helps us know which parts of our self-care plan we can implement. And the more you know yourself, the better you know yourself, the more you'll learn to love yourself and give yourself grace and nourishment, and self-care is a part of that. So thank you for being here today. One more thing I'd like for you to write down, one more question I have for you, okay? I want you to ask yourself, why did I decide to tune into this today? What am I looking for? Why am I here? Just asking yourself, writing it down. What do you want? Why are you here? Just take about another minute to write that down. So most of the problems you are experiencing arise from battles within. Dr. Joe Dispenza says that we think 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and 90% of them are the same. So if you want to change your pattern, you have to take committed action every day. You have to literally start to reprogram and rewire and do things that are working for us instead of against us. One of the things you also need is a support group, someone who can cheer you on. And that's what I'm here for. I'm excited to announce that we have a private Facebook group that's been created for everyone who's here today. And if I haven't already gotten your Facebook handle and your email, I invite you to email me at hello@mystrongworld.com. Send me your Facebook and your email. We'll make sure that we include you and invite you to this group. This group is a place that you can come, talk about how you're feeling, ask for suggestions. We're going to give you daily journal prompts, motivation, inspiration. So welcome. Thank you for saying yes. And I'm honored to be able to gift you that. We've had a great opportunity to collaborate with experts talking about self-care. You're going to hear from them today. You're going to hear a little bit from me, and let's get started in customizing this individual self-care plan for you. So the reason self-care matters is because it encourages you to have a healthy relationship with yourself. We live in a world where people are praised for working hard and the underlying belief that you must always be productive, doing something. If not, maybe you're lazy. That's one that I heard. And that can ultimately take away from opportunities for self-care. So self-care matters because it's been clinically proven to reduce or eliminate anxiety and depression, reduces stress. It actually improves your concentration, minimizes frustration and anger. So it allows us to just be able to stop for a minute and soothe ourselves, calm ourselves down. And in that, we can calm our nervous system. It increases happiness. It can improve your energy. Don't we all want more energy? Reduce heart disease and stroke and cancer, some of those things that are coming down the pipeline if we don't take care of ourselves. Self-love will heal you. It will empower you, restore you, and it really will open you up to worlds within you and all around you. And this is a key component of your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual self-care. When you start caring for yourself, you're going to start to feel better. You're going to look better. You'll attract better. And what I want you to know here is that it all starts with you. This is a personal practice that starts with you. And the person who's going to have the greatest impact and results is also going to be you. So remember that when you nourish and you fill your cup first, then you can fill others, but you have to make yourself a priority. It's not selfish. Self-care is not selfish. It's important and it's critical. So let's get into the 5 pillars of self-care. I teach these 5 pillars of self-care because self-care is a buzzword. And when I started practicing self-care, it was all around my first pillar, and that's physical self-care. We hear about exercise and diet, bubble baths, manicures, and pedicures. But I want to go deeper with physical self-care. So it's how you fuel your body, it's how much sleep you're getting, how much physical activity you're doing, and how well you're caring for your physical needs. These are all forms of physical self-care. Sleep is a big one. How much sleep are you getting? Are you getting enough sleep? Is it quality sleep? Part of your self-care routine could be that you decide that you're going to set a time that you're going to go to sleep. Or maybe you're going to wake up a little bit earlier so that you can have some quiet alone time for you every morning before it gets loud or before you have to rush and hurry and take off to wherever you're going. I've invited all teens, young adults, and their parents to join us today for International Self-Care Day for free on this self-care class. And so thank you for being here. And again, want to just really start to think about some of these things physically in your life. How's your nutrition? How are you fueling your body? I'm not talking about a diet here. What I'm talking about is nourishment. Asking yourself, what sounds good? What does my body need? This isn't about diets. Diets don't work. Typically, people gain all the weight back and some. So what can you do to nourish and take care of your body? Hydration and water is another big thing. Maybe what you could do is for every drink that you drink in between, there's also a water. I have a background in personal training, and I've always told my clients that you want to take your weight and half it. So cut your weight in half, and then whatever that number is in ounces is where you'd want to be drinking water. So drink some more water. And I wouldn't go over a gallon of water unless you really want to, but that's kind of like the tip. Movement and exercise is very critical. And my favorite thing to do is 20 minutes of mindful movement a day. It's asking my body what I need and then moving. I oftentimes just walk out my front door and I just start to move. What you'll notice is when you move and you start to walk, you actually start to process through feelings and emotions as well, which is one of my other pillars, self-care. And so walking and mindful movement can be a great way to do that. Yoga, stretching, some of my favorites. Also physical touch. What about a hug? What if you could just commit to giving one person a hug every day, or different people a hug every day, but at least one hug a day? The last one I want to share with you is creating a peaceful space for yourself, so that you can find a place to rest your body and to nourish your body. We now have the opportunity to hear from a couple of our experts talking about physical self-care. So let's see what they have to say.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Larson, and I am Miss Utah 2022. Self-care is something that is so important for all of us, whether it's doing a workout, a skincare routine, or meditating. It's something that we all need in order to feel healthy and happy. One of my favorite ways of self-care is through physical activity. As a ballet dancer, it's so important for me to move my body. One of my favorite ways is to go into the dance studio, turn on my favorite song, and just dance out any emotions that I have from that day. It is something that is very therapeutic for me. As Miss Utah, I have been able to visit many schools across the state to be able to share my message of the Movement, which is an initiative focused on bettering mental, physical, and emotional health in all people. Something that I've been able to do is brain break activities, which are short little movement-based activities that I do in the classroom, or you can even do it at work or at home. And this is something that truly has positive effects on people's mental, physical, emotional health. I have seen students improve their test scores. I have seen students feel happier, feel better about themselves. And so being able to promote that across the state is something that I love so much. There was a study done in 2017 by the Utah State Department of Health, and it said that only 17.9% of students in Utah were meeting the required 60 minutes of physical activity every single day. So it has been my mission to be able to help students feel better mentally, physically, and emotionally, and hopefully raise that statistic. Self-care has made such a positive impact on my life, and I have seen it impact my students and the students that I visit in elementary schools. And so I invite you to do some form of self-care today and feel the positive impacts that it has on your life.
Yoga can be the social aspect, right? Because many times you're on a mat by yourself, and really it is a inward practice, right? It's not so much like, let's go outside of myself and connect and socialize. But there are certain types of yoga where you can bring in that social element too, like partner yoga, or even attending or practicing with a friend or a loved one or a family. So social can be a little tricky with yoga, but that's the one way I still fit it in. But more than that, yoga, when I first started practicing, I was just so amazed seeing people make these shapes with their bodies that seemed really quite magical to me, because my body couldn't do those things when I first started the practice. And so I really came to it for the physical self-care aspect and to feel more connected to my body. But what I found was so much more, because what I found was I started my yoga practice while I was a stressed out college student, and I had never been stressed out in that way before in my life. And I said to myself, okay, what can I do? Because you're not quite yourself right now, but what could you do to help with this stress that you haven't had before in your life experience? And I knew yoga was calming. It wasn't as widespread as it is today, but I just started going to classes. And yes, I went for the physical aspect, for the anti-stress aspect, but I also found this emotional and my yoga practice. I learned that there are certain yoga practices you can do for experiencing large emotions, like even the emotion of anger. I had a teacher teach me to do the fists of anger while breathing heavily. And after doing that for 3 to 5 minutes, I'm like, okay, I can function as a kind-hearted human being that I want to be when I go out of my house, right? And so you have all these aspects, right? And then the spiritual aspect of yoga is so there. And I know you understand this, Kate. And when I think of spirit, I don't think of necessarily religious aspects of spiritual self-care. I think being inspired, right? When you are connected to your soul and your spirit, you have this zest for life, and you have this natural inspiration coming either through or around you in all these different ways. And I find on my yoga mat or on my meditation cushion, it's in those still, quiet moments by myself where I become so receptive to just the little inklings of my own soul. And I find that when I follow through with action off of my mat or my meditation cushion, that's when I feel like I'm living my best life, because I'm taking care of myself and then I'm following the inspiration that comes from me, not necessarily all these outside voices, which can be really good, inspired things as well. But it always feels best when, I'm connected with me, taking care of myself, and then following the rules. So yoga does it for me. Yes. And when you connect your body through your breath, there's some magic that happens there. I remember the first time a meditation teacher coached me through really breathing and breathing deeply into the lower recesses of our lungs. And we did it for probably a good 40 minutes. And through that experience, I was sitting there sobbing. I didn't know why. I just knew I was unlocking stuff in my cells, in my body. And for whatever reason, it wasn't causing health and harmony in my body. And so, just like you in your pigeon pose, we find ourselves in these different practices. And yeah, it might not be rainbows and butterflies while we're doing the work, while we're sitting there breathing through what is seeing truth, right? That can be difficult. But once we overcome or are able to sit with our pain, or able to sit with ourselves lovingly, there's so much magic on the other side of that, because it's self-love truly at its essence, like this really deep and rich and real self-love. So this one is so simple and I love it, because if you ever find yourself in a pressurized moment or a tense moment in life, this can quite literally cool you down from the inside out. So it's called Sitali Pranayam, and you roll your tongue for this breath practice. It also, just a fun fact, if you ever start to overheat in a hot yoga class, when you find yourself in down dog, try this breath and you'll naturally cool yourself down. So it's really a 2-for-1. You roll your tongue, and if you're unable to roll your tongue, you purse your lips like this. If you can roll your tongue, you do that. And you'll inhale through your rolled tongue or your pursed lips, and then exhale out your nose. So we'll do this a few times together. Roll your tongue and inhale. Exhale out your nose when you're ready. So just to recap, this is the Sitali Pranayam, and it's a breathing practice that cools you down from the inside out. So even after 3 breaths, can you feel that coolness in your mouth, in you, Kate?
Yes, I can feel it. I can feel it.
It's
Thank you.
really, really wonderful. And I'll even teach that to like kids, and they feel that and they're like, wow, that really does work. So try it. It doesn't have to be when you're in a physically hot space, like a hot yoga room. You could be, in a, okay, I'm feeling this really strong emotion right now. I need to cool myself down. And you try that breath and it works like a charm. Oh, find me at Alyssa Yoga on Instagram, on YouTube, alyssayoga.com. That's just me, Alyssa Yoga, ALISSA.
To you. Well, the one thing that I love about what you're doing, Kate, is that you're talking about everything, all the pillars. And that's, for me, the greatest piece of knowledge that we can share is that they're all interconnected. It's not one, it's not the other. If you just have one and you don't have the other, you're going to miss something in your life. And I love that we can all interconnect that. And yes, I did choose physical, because for me, for years, I didn't understand how they were all connected. And I kept focusing only on my physical. I'm weighing now what I weighed in the 4th grade. I just want you to think about that for a minute. So how many years I struggled with the physical and tried every diet in the book. When I was in junior high, Weight Watchers was launched. I'm now close close to 69 in just 2 weeks. And being able to connect the dots finally allowed me to get in charge and self-care on my physical. All those years, I beat myself up on the physical. That I wasn't enough because I didn't have the willpower to stick to a diet. And it was all about sticking to a diet and having willpower. And then what it proved to me was again and again that I wasn't enough. But by realizing how connected they are, I was able to then look into the mental piece, the emotional piece, and say, what is it that's generating this? All these fears of not being enough are just self-fulfilling prophecies. The old tapes that I told myself, you can't do anything physical. You're never going to be able to do this or that. And I self-fulfilled. Talk about yo-yo dieting. Can you imagine how many of those I did? It's crazy, right?
Well, I think
Wouldn't you have liked to have been 15 and have someone tell you that you could care for your own self?
Yeah.
You didn't have to rely upon your friends, social media, outside influences, your parents even, that you could care for yourself. And I think that's the greatest message that we have for teens right now, is that we can care for ourselves. You don't have to rely on someone else. So when I think of things like bubble baths, which I love, and pedicures and facials and all those things, I love those. And those are my treats, but they're not necessarily my routine. My routine is making sure that I care for all my physical needs every day. And so that includes high vibration cooking, eating, foods that make me feel good inside. And I might be thinking that that donut makes me feel good. But in reality, afterwards, if you just stop and think, you really didn't make you feel good. In fact, it brought down your emotional and your mental. You began to beat yourself up about it. Once again, you proved you couldn't stick to anything. So when you're filling your body with high vibrational food, your body responds. And when you're filling yourself with high vibration exercise and activity, maybe it's only walking. And I say only walking. Walking is proven to be the number one thing to get our bodies in high vibration, along with yoga. But you put those two things together. Now I strength train. I do tons of cardio. But let's begin little with caring for yourself and taking 15 minutes a day just to care for yourself. Quality sleep. Do you know how many times I prided myself on being able to get by for 20 years on 4 hours of sleep? It was like I wore a badge on my shoulder that said, hey, look how little sleep I really need. And what I was doing was really beating myself up. I wasn't involved in self-care. When I finally realized that, and I began to be caring about myself, I realized I really could do 6, 7, 8 was a blessing. But 4 was killing me slowly.
Yeah.
And so I just shifted. I'm doing things differently now. And I love that by understanding all these pillars that you're going to talk about, everyone is going to be able to see that. When I asked myself, what would I have said to my 15-year-old self who really had no self-confidence? I would have said to her, Mary, don't worry. Don't be afraid. You grow up to be a badass woman. And you are full of purpose and grace and grit. You may not be seeing that or feeling that now, but believe in yourself and begin to take care of yourself in whatever little way that looked like. And that's what I love that we're going to teach. Not just the pillars, but I hope we get to go on and teach the hows.
Yeah.
The one last thing I'd like to end on is this fact that I'm trying to say this so like people really hear and understand what this is about. They oftentimes say to me, wow, Mary, you lost 145 pounds. Half of you is gone. That must have been so much hard work. This is the key that I want everyone to hear. Sure, it took commitment and dedication and focus, but it wasn't hard. Not like ever before, because as I healed my mind, my mental, my emotional, my spiritual, my body naturally released all the perfections and protections that had been holding. So as we work on all these pillars together, they all heal together.
Thanks.
Namaste.
Hello everyone, my name is Ezra Brenson, and today I'm here to talk about physical self-care. Staying active in our everyday life is very important for our health and all-around wellness. Staying active can help with our mental and emotional health. For me, staying physically active is something I put in my everyday schedule. You can do it at your own pace. For example, with physical, you can go on a run, or you can take it slow and go on a walk. Or it can be the little things in life, such as eating the right foods, getting enough sleep, and drinking a good amount of water. Anything that you find joy in, whether it be a physical activity like a sport or anything like that, just do it. Get up and get out there.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I have found in my life, when I start coaching others to do something, I execute better, right? Part of that is, I think part of it's because you don't want to be a hypocrite. A little bit, you know, when you start helping other people. When I look back at like my journey alone, like former 100-pound overweight, 3-time college dropout, I had people that were coaching me along. But what shocked me is when people started asking my advice, when I felt I still had so far to go. And then what I realized is we just have to be a couple steps ahead of somebody else to like actually be able to pour into them. And I think that's where, you know, 15 years of this, it's that bracket of being coached and pulled by people ahead of me, and also pouring into people that might be a few steps behind me. And it creates this bracket where we stay consistent. But when you just said that, I was like, absolutely. Because when we start getting real conscious into pouring in other people, we check ourselves. I'm like, am I doing what I'm telling these other people to do as well? So I love the fact that you started with that. You know, when people bring that up, and I'm super proud of the fact that I've lost 100 pounds, but I really do tell people the thing I'm most proud of is that I've kept it off now for almost 20 years, and am at the best shape of my life now at 44 than when I started this journey, right? And I think when you ask, like, how did you do it? It really is this combo of physical steps and accountability and the mindset piece. And for me, I always tell people the biggest battle that I had to face was not losing 100 pounds, surprisingly. It's the battle I choose to fight every day with what goes on between my ears. And so I wake up every morning and I have this mantra that I have to attack my mind before my mind attacks me. Because old, scared, excuse-filled fat Jimmy still lives in here, even this many years later. And he wants to show up really loudly a lot of mornings. And if I wait to see if he's gonna be there that morning, I've already lost. And so for me, it's about being super proactive. And so it was a couple of steps, Kate. It really was, number one, I had been really good at explaining where I was in my life, why it wasn't necessarily my fault I had the weight on. It wasn't my fault I had to move back in with my parents in my 20s. I had an explanation. I didn't look at it as complaining. I was just like, I was explaining. And it wasn't really until I moved back home after dropping out of college for the 3rd time, and I'm waiting tables and bartending in my parents' house. And I stepped out of the shower one day and wrapped a towel out around me. And I looked in the mirror and I just thought, who's gonna love this? I said, Jimmy, you're gonna be alone the rest of your life. This is you. By this point, I was 21, 22 years old. So I was no longer a kid. And it was the first time in my life I took 100% responsibility for where I was in my life. So I think that's step one, is us really just getting honest with ourselves on where we are. And then the second piece of that is a Post-it note that I literally keep here on my desk that says, are you willing to be willing? And what it means when I say, are you willing to be willing, is, are you willing to look at something a different way? Are you willing to be coachable? Because before then, it wasn't that people hadn't tried to help me before. I was just really quick to say, oh, that won't work for me. Oh, this doesn't work. Oh, those things don't work. Or I would just shut things down. And which is so silly, right? We see people that have something that we want and we ask, what did you do? And the minute if they're nice enough and gracious enough to share, and then we go, oh, that won't work for me. And I'm like, I used to be that person. It was really sad. And so I had to learn to be willing. So after I had that moment in the mirror and I was like, look, you are where you are today, Jimmy, because of every decision you've made up to this point, you know? And are you willing to be willing? And so what was crazy is that there were resources already around me that the universe just said, look, these have been here the whole time, these people or these things, And you just haven't been willing to be open-minded about those. And so for me, I was waiting tables with a guy that was losing weight. And I always joke that I envy you ladies because you guys see things that each other are doing. And the first thing you say is, oh my gosh, your hair looks great. Where'd you get it done? What's the makeup? How did you look fantastic. And unfortunately, we don't roll up and go, yo, Jeremy, you look really good in them jeans, dude. Like, what are you doing? Like, unfortunately, we guys let our ego get in the way. And so there was a guy waiting tables with that I was watching him lose weight. And it took me a while to even ask. And finally, it was like, okay, what's the bigger pain? Me and my ego, or just getting the results that I want? And so he shared with me, they were in-home workouts. Again, they were in-home workouts. And I was like, oh, I'm not doing your Jane Fonda stuff. And I said no again. Again, I'm watching somebody do exactly what I wanted to do. And I told them no. And finally, and what was so great is he didn't let my no deter him. Right? So often in life, maybe we're trying to help other people and we allow their judgment or their no or whatever adjust our consistency. And God bless him, he didn't. He's just like, fine, you don't have to do it. It's going to keep working for me. And I kept watching. And so finally I was like, okay, I'm in. And what that allowed me to do was not only find some really simple home workouts to do at home, it also introduced me to a community that introduced me to personal development, that introduced me to people that believed in me before I believed in myself. In fact, my friend Jason just popped on here, and he was one of those guys that I met online at a message board that really was super encouraging early on before I really knew that, I could even believe in myself. And then it was that piece that I told you about. I'm following all these people online thinking they're the experts. They're the people with, that look amazing or with the washboard abs. And then all of a sudden more people continue to start joining this community. And people started asking me questions. And I'm like, wait, why are you asking me? I still have 20, 30, 40 pounds to lose. Like, go over there. And what they wanted was somebody that they could relate with, that had just recently been in their spot. And that's where I realized that we can pour into people, not when we're some perfect version or when we reach, there is no finish line. Like, Kate, you can probably say the same thing as me. People may look at you and go, oh my gosh, I wish I had her body, or I wish I had her mindset. But right now, you're trying to figure something out to take a next step too. And I can say that because I know I am too. There is no finished product, and we keep growing and learning. So it's small steps, it's small action steps.
We are.
Take care.
Hello, my friends at the Three Peaks podcast and everybody else watching. Brilliant here. Hey, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today about the importance of our physical health. This was something that was really driven home to me when I watched my father, who was a very successful entrepreneur, who spent many, many hours over a period of decades working to grow an incredibly successful group of companies, die due to complications from diabetes. Now, diabetes wasn't the only ailment that he suffered from, but his ailments were the result of prioritizing work for many years over his health, and issues of high stress, poor diet, little exercise, a small amount of sleep, not going to the doctor, basically just not taking very good care of himself. Eventually caught up to him, as it does with all of us. And when I saw him in the hospital near the end of his life with his legs amputated due to complications from diabetes, I made two decisions. One, that would never be me. I would take care of my health. I would eat nutritious food. I would exercise regularly. And number two, I decided that I would support and encourage others to live healthy lives as well. So with that, I realized there's nothing particularly complicated about this. We know what to do when it comes to these areas of our life, of eating well, of getting exercise, of getting rest, which is important as well. So ultimately, this is not only a reminder of what you already know, but it's encouragement to put what you know into practice, to protect your health. Without it, you don't have the vitality, the wherewithal to care for others, to do what you love, and to make a contribution in this world that you are capable of making. So with that, again, thanks for giving me a chance to talk about this. I hope that you have a fantastic International Self-Care Day, but that you practice that self-care every single day so that you have the most of yourself to share with others and to enjoy life for its own sake. All right, with that, take care. Talk to you later.
Oh, such good advice. I'm always so grateful to hear from our experts and what they have to share about physical self-care and what you can do. As you can hear, it's not just about the physical, right? There's so much more to that. The physical is just one part of it. So I want to go into my second pillar of self-care, which is mental self-care. Okay. So what you think, you become, and what you focus on grows. Living with intention and remembering to stay curious are ways to stay mentally healthy. Have you ever thought about that, just by being curious and asking more questions? So some of the ways you can do that is to read or listen to an audiobook, and be mindful of the content that you're choosing. You know, if you're spending time on something that is criminal defense or in that criminal kind of mindset, I know that I get really sucked into crime shows and documentaries on Netflix. And I can find that if I've watched a couple of those, it affects my mood and it affects how I feel. Totally fine, just something to notice and be aware of. And if you want to shift that energy, if you want to shift what you're thinking about and where your thoughts are, then think of something else or put different thoughts into your mind. One of those things you can do is listen to podcasts or TED Talks. There's lots of good stuff out there. We're on YouTube today. Get on YouTube and Google and search. There's lots of really good content on YouTube talking about mental health care and wellness and self-care. Learning something new is a great way to engage in mental self-care, keeping your mind active. It also keeps you from just thinking about thoughts that are not really helpful. Again, coming back to my quote earlier, Dr. Joe Dispenza says that 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day and 90% are the same. What's your inner dialogue? What are you saying to yourself? What's the critic in your brain? Again, when you notice this, just pause and just replace it with a better thought. Think a better thought. If you find yourself consumed with something that is not helping you, find something else to think about. Something that will uplift you. You can also meditate, finding time to just quiet your mind. If you're not sure how to meditate, I would start with a guided meditation, and then you can eventually get to a place where you can do meditations without guiding. But start with a guided meditation. That's a really good way to start. And then again, remembering that positive self-talk. What are you saying to yourself? What are the words? What is the dialogue in your head? So let's hear from some of our mental self-care experts and what they have to say.
Of time, but I'm so excited to be here. Not only do I see the importance of self-care in my own life, but I'm a mom of 5 kids and now 2 grandkids. And just like you've talked over time with the past guests, is that I see the importance because I needed it so badly. There were times in my life that I wasn't filling my own bucket, and therefore I was not able to give everybody else what I had to give because I wasn't giving that to myself. And I chose the mental pillar of self-care because it was such, I think that a lot of people are wandering this world like with trauma. And we cannot physically take care of ourselves and do all the other pillars until we recognize the trauma that we've come through. And that's the one thing that I've noticed in any crowd that I speak to, anywhere that I am. The one thing that we can count on that every single person has in common is that we all struggle. We've all had a struggle. We've had to overcome something. We're either in it, we've overcome it, or we keep going back to it. And until we learn how to fix those things behaviorally and sometimes speak with a doctor, we cannot make any progress. And therefore it leaves us feeling empty. You're not alone. That's what I tell them very first, is you are not alone. There are so many people that are like amongst you that could see what's going on. And I think one of the biggest things is that I have diabetes. Never do I have shame in going to the doctor to get my prescription refilled for my diabetes. I know that insulin is crucial and critical to who I am and how I function. I believe that mental health is just as crucial as the insulin that I put in my body. And so when you are struggling, no matter what your struggle is, first of all, don't minimize it. Don't minimize your struggle and try to talk yourself out of the struggle. I think that we all have things that we need to work on. And in order to heal it, we have to reveal it. We have to name it. We need to know what it is. And that there are so many people out there that can help you. And in order for them to help you, you have to speak it out loud. You have to say it out loud. And I know that there's so many things that, like, my kids have gone through, that I've gone through, that's trauma. And I remember one time, and I want to share this quick story. I was speaking with a counselor, and she says, I deal with a lot of people that have addiction issues. I deal with a lot of people that have struggles and have trauma but the difference in when I deal with people that have trauma versus that are not chemically dependent or whatever, is that I know many people that walk around every single day and they are a functioning broken person. We still do really good jobs. We're still really good parents. We're still good friends. We're still all of these things, but we're walking around with unnecessary pain that could be helped. And that is, like, I speak firsthand, is that many a times in these self-care pillars, I've hid behind the physical aspects or the spiritual aspects, and I've not revealed the mental aspect that I need to be overall. And I think that what you reinforce constantly is wholeness. There's all these different pieces that come into that wholeness, and the mental aspect is a pillar. It's a big piece of that healing and being able to literally help other people because we've helped ourselves. That's the biggest thing, is like in connection, building connection. It's building things that people understand, they empathize with, they get. You're going to be in this forum with just like-minded people that get it, that they get you and they understand. Yeah. Thank you. Have a great day.
Hey guys, I'm Brenton here from the 3 Peaks podcast. I wanted to take a minute to talk about the pillars of self-care created by Kate Strong, especially mental self-care. Mental self-care is important to me because I can take care of my mind by meditation, reading literature, learning new things, and listening and positive self-talk. I practice the use of mental self-care by taking a minute from all the distractions around me to breathe in and breathe out to clear my mind. I also use the practice of positive self-talk to encourage myself to love and take care of myself in order to reflect my love and care for others. The reason why I believe self-care routines are important is because if you practice self-care, you will discover how important it is to be in tune with your mental, physical, emotional, social, and spiritual self. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to our International Self-Care Day. We'll see you guys on trail next time.
I didn't know what burnout was until I was burnt out. And I think, so when I was an entrepreneur, I would kind of let things get out of hand and just think, oh, I can't take a break. And like, I'll take a break when we get to this many employees or this revenue or this. And so I would just like keep plowing through. And I think that's the message you hear a lot on LinkedIn and stuff, is that if you can just keep plowing through, that you'll be fine. But anyway, I told myself, like, I can't lose a client. If I take a week off, maybe I'll lose a client, or maybe I'll lose a couple clients. But I didn't realize that there's the long term and the short term that you have to balance. And so, man, I'm just talking in circles, but I think it's just those lies that I was told by myself and growing up from other generations of, like, you just have to suck it up and just pile through. I love what Jim Carrey said. I know I said a Jim Carrey quote on our last podcast. This is a different one, I promise. He said, depression is your body telling, or is yourself telling yourself that it's tired of playing that character. So I think one time an entrepreneur said, if you're ever going to start a business, you should know thyself. And I think one thing that was burning me out and causing a lot of depression was being something I wasn't. I was being a salesman, which I'm not a great salesperson. I care way too much about people, and I just like want to help everyone, and I have too much empathy when I'm selling to people. So that would stress me out. I'm like, oh, am I screwing people over? Or they're like, I have to tell them this price or that price. Anyway, getting into a creative director role at Neighbor, and founding We Are Mind with Nick, those are things I'm passionate about and good at. And so you can just feel yourself becoming the role you were meant to play, I guess, if that makes sense.
It does.
So that was a huge part for me, is like just coming to know myself, and then taking medication. Frankly, like I wish someone would have told me that you could just take this tiny little medication and just tune up the chemicals in your brain slightly. And that has made a world of difference. Yeah, I would say whatever's making you feel like you need to continue or plow forward, if it's school, if it's demands at work, or everything on top of it, you can stop and take a week off. You can even take a month off from pressure. Just tell yourself, hey, I'm not going to pressure myself for a month, and in a month I'm going to get back at it. It's like a broken leg or a broken arm. Burnout it can take weeks and weeks to get over. So it's okay to slow down and it's okay to let some balls drop. It's okay to fail. You can always pick up the pieces later. It's not worth your life to stress over what you're stressing about. And I can't tell you how many times I stressed out over something that was completely fixable or didn't even matter in a year from now.
Man, are we lucky today to get to hear from these experts, or what? There's so many good nuggets and words of wisdom that we can take and practice and use in our lives. Thank you. I'm so glad that you've tuned in and that I've had the opportunity to create this class for you and to bring in all of these incredible collaborators talking about self-care. So the fourth pillar of self-care that we're going to move into, number 4, is spiritual self-care. Spiritual self-care does not have to be religious, although it can be for some. They're activities that nurture your spirit and allow you to think bigger than yourself. Okay, so this is like you connecting with the essence of who you are, your soul, and ways that you can do that are time in nature, time alone, being alone and listening to that voice within and listening to what our soul, heart and soul has to say is really important. You can practice yoga. Prayer and meditation are big. I like to think of prayer as the asking, and the meditation is like that quiet listening. And that's the kind of meditation that's not guided. There's also guided meditation. You can get on YouTube and you can search whatever you want to feel, meditation for wellness, meditation for peace, meditation for creation, whatever it might be, guided meditation for sleep. Find a meditation and start to see if you can use that. Create a vision board. I love vision boards. We do this every year for self-care at the beginning of the year and practice that. So let's think about vision. What are you creating? What are you calling in? You can go to a place of worship. That's another great place or thing that you can do. I host Soulful Sunday Sound Bath meditations once a month, and that's a great way for you to connect with that higher power, your spirit. Inspiring and motivational talks. Music, again, is another one. And going in a place where you can start to create some kind of ritual or something in the morning is when I usually do it. I stand in front of my altar and I just ask and pray that I can be guided and supported. There is support and guidance out there. I'm not going to tell you that I know exactly what that looks like, because I don't, but what I will tell you is that I know that it's there and it works, and I invite you to do the same. So let's hear what some of our experts have to say about spiritual self-care.
I think it's so important, because if we don't have a connection to ourselves, then we're not able to connect with anybody else. And spiritual self-care to me is being in tune with our spirit, mind, body, and soul, but specifically the intuition that's our inner voice that tells us how we're doing. And then when we're with other people, it tells us how they're doing and allows us to hold space and connect to them. I think it starts with breath work. When we can take maybe a 5-minute pause and practice breathing, and maybe that's just putting your right hand on your chest and feeling your actual breath. I like to practice inhale for 4, hold for 8, and exhale for 7. If we do that for about 3 minutes per day, we're going to hear what's going on in our head, and in our body, anything that's driving us crazy is going to become real obvious. And I think that that's a really good way to begin tuning into our spiritual self-care. I think self-care in general is a way to honor our experience here. You know, we're here on earth for a specific amount of time. And if we take care of ourselves, we're going to be able to shine and help other people do that. If we aren't taking care of ourselves, we're probably medicating or distracting. And I don't think that's what we're here for. I think we're here to live to the very fullest of the experience. And when we take care of ourselves with food, with sleep, with meditation, with affirmations, we're really showing up as our best selves. And I think the biggest thing for me that I've noticed lately is that I'm so busy, and everyone I know is busy. And having a self-care practice and routine slows me down. It helps me come back to what is important, what is off. Because if I didn't have a routine, I think 3 weeks would pass and it would just be flying by. So I have a Instagram for my company, my coaching company, that's at Hearts of Wellness. Also, I have a website that is Heart of Wellness. So, and please feel free to reach out, send me a message if you're curious about anything we talked about, if you'd like more information. Kate and I are both here to support and empower. It was really fun to join you today, Kate. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Hi guys, I'm Amanda Branson from the 3 Peaks podcast, and I'm going to be talking about one out of the 5 self-care pillars created by Kate Strong, which are physical, social, emotional, mental, and spiritual. I chose to talk about spiritual because I find it very insightful. The pillar basically means to stop overthinking and become more in tune with your breathing, emotions, and finding peace in your surroundings. For me, it's been life-changing to do meditation, basically learning how to breathe properly and help clear my mind and to find myself living with intention.
Wow, the power of our minds, right? I mean, really, we are so powerful. If we can learn how to reprogram, if we can learn how to get our minds to do what we want it to do and work for us instead against us, it's a superpower. I'm really convinced that of all the 5 pillars of self-care, mental health care perhaps might be the most important. And I'm grateful that we are talking about mental self-care and wellness these days. So thank you for that share. Let's move now to the 3rd pillar of self-care. It's emotional self-care. Okay, so what is emotional self-care? Emotional self-care is to become aware of and identify what you're feeling, and then allow yourself to lean into the feelings in a way that honors yourself and your emotions. You know, we can try to deny or ignore or suppress our emotions, but eventually they'll come out in one way or another. We need healthy coping skills to feel comfortable feeling emotions. Now, when I grew up, there were certain emotions that were considered good emotions, and then there were bad emotions. There were also certain emotions that were tolerated in social situations, and many that were shamed. Was don't act like that, go to your room if you're going to be like that, pull it together, stop that crying. And I want to specifically talk to you males right now, because oftentimes you're told that boys don't act like that way, boys don't cry, suck it up, you wuss, shake it off. And my heart is with you right now because we were born with emotions. And they're not good emotions and they're not bad emotions. They just are. It's part of the human experience. It's part of us being human. And when we can take the judgment away and not feel like emotions are good and bad and just let them be, there's really a superpower in that. And I want to invite you to practice feeling feelings. In our world today, when we feel feelings that are too big and people don't know what to do with it, one thing they can do is go to the doctor and get a prescription that will help those feelings go away. And what I want you to know is that medication will numb the feelings, but the feelings don't go away. There's a book called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. There's another one called The Body Keeps the Score. These books talk about how if we don't feel emotions, we will store them in our body. and they will manifest themselves as pain, and I believe dis-ease. Again, I'm not a doctor, so I want to clarify and say that. But what I do want you to know is my personal experience has been that I've been able to lean in and ask specific parts of my body where I'm feeling pain. What is this? And it's almost always tied to something emotional. And when I sit and listen, it's interesting to hear what I have to teach myself about it. So allow yourself the safe space to feel emotions. And if you want to share your feelings with someone, I'd ask you to say first to the person, hey, I have some things on my chest I'd like to share, or hey, I have some big feelings coming up. Can I talk to you about that? And give the person an opportunity to say yes and know what they're getting into, and set aside the proper amount of time to hold the space for you and to let you process through these emotions. These are some things you can do, okay? I offer that you get a piece of paper, draw a line down it, and write things that cost money and things that don't, and create a joy list or a happy list. This is your pleasure list. These are the things that bring you so much pleasure and joy in your life that cost money and things that don't. And the reason this matters and this list is important is because when you're having one of those moments where you're just feeling down or sad or depressed or whatever it might be, and you're kind of over it, you're like, I've been feeling this and I'm ready to move through it. Doing something on your joy list will really help you with that. Another one is, again, just feel the emotions, allow yourself to feel it, and saying that I feel this, not that I am. Okay, so I feel sad. I feel upset. I feel frustrated. Whatever that is, it's feeling it. You're not that. When you say I am, whatever follows that is creation. And so be very mindful of your words here. Gratitude writing and journaling is a great way to shift into feeling more positive emotions. What you focus on grows. So if you're focused on what you're feeling grateful for, you're going to find more things to be grateful for. So focus on gratitude writing. You can also get a mentor, a life coach, a therapist, anyone in your life who you can really learn and practice processing through emotions with in a healthy way is really, really powerful. It's definitely the way I've been able to level up and get to where I am today. I have a life coach. I've was meeting with therapists for 12 years before I shifted into the space that I am now. And I have a business coach. I go talk to people who are experts in what they're doing. And so find someone who can help you. Yoga is another great way to feel the emotions. Allow yourself to be quiet, still the mind, and move through your body, see what comes up and lean in. And then the last one I would recommend is music. Music is so powerful. So if you want to feel emotions, if maybe you want to have a good cry, turn on a country song and feel what it feels like to lose that relationship or that dog or whatever it might be. And if you want to feel happy and you want to shift that energy, then turn on a song that evokes that emotion in you. Music is a really quick one to shift up and feel that emotions. So now let's hear what our experts have to say about emotional self-care.
Best thing that I can do to be the best person that I can be, whether it's a friend, a mom, a business owner, or whatever, is to take care of me first. And I have unfortunately learned the hard way that if I don't do that, I definitely run out of all the things that I really need to have available to me to be able to be like the best person that I can be. So my initial kind of gut reaction to it was the emotional. And that was for a couple different reasons. In my practice, I work mostly with teenagers, and I know that you're really reaching out to teens and young adults in this process. And so that really kind of felt like one that I feel a lot of passion towards and excitement for, because I think it's something that is not always addressed or always taken care of. You know, when we think of self-care, I don't know many teens and young adults that are thinking like, oh, awesome, I'm gonna do something for my emotional self-care today. And so that's kind of why I guess that one kind of stuck out to me. I think that what happens is that we don't always, because of those things that we were told to us as we grew up, you know, like to man up, or, you know, don't cry, or you're okay, or whatever. We don't, I hope my bird's about too loud. We aren't really equipped to even know what those emotions are. So
Yeah.
oftentimes what happens is it's like, okay, well, what are you feeling? You know, and it's typically I'm angry or I'm frustrated. Sometimes I'm mad, once in a while sad, but mostly it's those what we in the therapy world call a secondary emotion. And so really getting ourselves to slow down, sit with the emotion, and figure out what it really is. And so I really think it's important to like, okay, I have something going on in me, to stop and sit, close your eyes and whatnot, and just sit with it and feel it and try to feel like, where is it at? What does that feel like? You know, is it in my chest? Is it in my stomach? Is it in my head? And starting to really understand from like the root what those emotions are and where they're coming from. And then really, I'm a big cheat sheet fan. So, you know, using a cheat sheet, it seems really silly, but nobody cares. Nobody can see you in those moments when you're working on yourself. And you can look at it, the cheat sheet, and figure out what are the emotions. There's tons out there on the internet where you can just look up like emotion cheat sheet, and it will give you a whole list of all of these different emotions, many of which we really never even think to label our emotions as. And you can start to become more familiar and have more of a vocabulary around your emotions, so that when your emotions come up or when somebody asks you how you're feeling or you need to explain, you really understand what that emotion is.
Hi guys, Ivan Brenson here from the Three Peaks podcast. I wanted to take a minute to talk about another pillar of self-care created by Kate Strong: emotional self-care. The importance of emotional self-care is to learn how to acknowledge and validate our emotions, to label them in order to come in terms with what we are feeling and to be able to deal with those feelings in a meaningful way. The way I practice emotional self-care is to be open and to communicate in an honest manner with others. Another way I practice emotional self-care is to have a journal to write in. I can reduce stress and anxiety and set goals to improve myself each and every day, and to write down some of my emotions that I am feeling. The reason why I believe that self-care routines are important is because if you practice self-care, you'll discover how important it is to be in tune with your mental, physical, emotional, social, and spiritual self. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to our International Self-Care Day.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate these shares. There's so much value in what's being shared here. And I hope that you have some examples of spiritual self-care and how you can start to nourish your spirit. Our fifth pillar of self-care is social self-care. And this one is so important. Not everyone includes this in self-care, but I'm going to tell you why it matters. It's a key in self-care. Social self-care involves our connections with other people. And some people might call it community. It could be your tribe, your circle, your network. In our busy lives, it can be hard to create time for friends and even neglect relationships. I mean, we're talking to teens and young adults, parents, all of us, right? We've got these busy lives. We are in different social circles, sometimes forced to be, whether that's like sports or acting or music or just different kind of activities that we're doing. But what about those social networks or groups that really, really enrich you and light you up? Again, if we're the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with, it's important for you to choose wisely who is in your circle. I have teenagers, and it's a really interesting thing in these years of middle school and early years of high school to experience what this is like and like friends and who your circle is going to be and who you're going to hang out with. And I've noticed that sometimes it feels like they are just wanting to get picked. So like, who wants to be their friend? I'm going to invite you to decide who do you want in your circle and be really specific. Write down characteristics of the type of person you're looking for. Find people who uplift you, who inspire you, who talk about things instead of people. I'm going to repeat that. Surround yourself with people who talk about things instead of other people. Here's some other things to know about social self-care. It includes having a group of people who support you in the good times and the tough ones. Okay. If you are going to do the work to become the best version of yourself, you need a safe place to do that. And you need to be able to have a group, someone, people in your life who can hold you physically, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally as you heal. Because there's healing for all of us. And that healing is just processing and feeling the emotions, right? Allowing ourselves to feel those things instead of stuff them down and ignore them. The best way to cultivate and maintain close relationships is to put time and energy into building the relationship, right, with others. So be proactive and be the leader, be the one that's creating this. Remember that you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, so choose wisely. Okay, here are some ways that you can create this social self-care in your life. So spend time with uplifting community and support group. Something that inspires you. Communication is critical, okay? In life, I believe that one of the greatest things we can learn is to have good communication. It creates healthy relationships and connection. And one thing I want you to know is that nothing is ever personal. So when someone is speaking or sharing something with us, even if they're saying you did this or you this, they're really just saying like, I feel this way. This is how I felt because of that. Allow people to feel what they want to feel. Feel what you get to feel. But having really good communication and asking lots of questions for clarity and understanding, okay? If the goal is connection, if the goal is to have these deep, rich relationships, you have to hear what the other person is saying. And it just really means that they're sharing with you how their brain works, how they process, and what their experience is, okay? Boundaries are really important. We need to create boundaries. Healthy boundaries don't mean that you're blocking people out. It doesn't, a boundary can sometimes feel like it's, oh, this is what I'll do, this is what I won't. A boundary is saying like, this is what I need to feel safe. This is what I need to feel comfortable. These are conversations or topics I do want to talk about. These are conversations and topics I don't want to talk about. Sometimes religion and politics can just get, you know, people into a scenario where it's just creating conflict and it's unnecessary, right? So maybe that could be part of your boundaries. Or, you know, standing up for yourself. And this is what a healthy relationship looks like for you. Write it down, decide it, create it. Writing cards and sending them. I love to write cards. I know this is maybe like an old school kind of thing, but I grew up in Alabama. I'm a Southern girl and we send cards and I still do it today. So write a card and send it. Send a meaningful note to someone. Another great thing is FaceTime, Marco Polo, ways that you can connect with people. When you're going to have a conversation about something that's important, don't text. Take the opportunity to meet face to face, send a Marco Polo, FaceTime with the person. It is a much different experience. It's things get lost in translation when we communicate through texting. Create opportunities for dates. And I take my kids on dates. So I'm not saying this is like a romantic date, although it can be. Create opportunities and time to spend together and connect, okay? What are some organizations at school or in your community that you could involve yourself in that you might want to have support? Seek those out. Look online. You'll find lots of opportunities there. Let's hear what our experts have to say about this 5th pillar of self-care called social self-care.
Each of these pillars, like your other guests have stated, are equally as important. All of them create that package. Now, I know that we're focusing right now on the teenagers, right?
Yes.
That's kind of who we're speaking to right now and who we're trying to cater to. So I want to speak in such a way that resonates more with them, right? I would speak differently to a teenager versus to someone like us. But the reason I switched to social is because your identity, who you are, your identity within, and your environment are key. They're key to success and to just creating and designing the life that you want. Okay, so if we're talking to a teenager in the church that I used to go to, I worked with teenagers a lot. I was a mentor for teenagers to this age group. And I think we find, and it's not even just teenagers, right? all of us can struggle with our identity, with who we are. You know, at what point does a person learn who they are? You know, it's like my whole life as a teenager, I literally just kind of would follow. I was a follower. I would follow the crowd because I didn't know who I was inside to be able to stand tall. So guys and gals, teens, like this identity is something that you get to design and that you get to create for yourself. And nothing is more powerful than that. Once you create that identity, you need to put yourself in the environment that supports this new identity, which is look at the 5 people you surround yourself with, guys and gals. Who are they? And are they people that bring you up, or are they people that can put you in different environments that possibly don't support your standards or your goals? If I would give anything to your audience, like 2 action items right now. Okay, let's talk about 2 action items right now that we get to do. First action item is you get to design exactly who you are. You get to sit down and design who you are. You get to design your standards. You get to design your identity. You get to create that. And guess what? It's continuous. It's ever changing. It's ever growing. It's ever evolving. Like, I am Heather. I am strong. I am brave. I am courageous. I am fit. I am free. Like, whatever it is, you get to sit down and design that identity. Next, friends, you've got to make a list of the people you surround yourself with. And if they do not help you level up your life and your identity and support you, you've got to say goodbye. You've got to cut the ties, and you do not apologize for it. You stand strong, you stand tall, because 1, you deserve it, and you deserve to win in this life. And that starts with the top 5.
Well, I was deciding between mental and social, but I kind of, in thinking about it, realized really they just are intertwined for me. I mean, I like all the pillars, right? So social is kind of the focus, but we'll probably get a little bit into mental. And like you said, our social circles, I've realized, especially as an adult woman, how important they are. You hit a stage where after you have kids, this has been my experience, it was kind of hard to, I didn't know how to make friends at that point. And a social circle was kind of created for me anyway, with the religion that I was in. And when I left that, I didn't really know how to create that, and how to surround myself with the people I want to be with. And didn't realize, right, that I could create that. So yeah, it's been this journey. I've been grateful to have met Courtney, who introduced me to you, who has now helped me to create a circle of strong, powerful women who have made all the difference in my life. From helping me to see my potential and my growth, and or that, you know, my potential helped me to grow and just become a better, really happier person too. I mean, I was in a state of depression, and if it wasn't for my friends in my circle that would give me these nuggets, these things they would say to me, like, you deserve it, you are worth it, you're beautiful, you just need to be kind to yourself. Whatever the words were, they meant so much to me to help me think outside of my own way of thinking and direction. That exactly is what my circle of friends and influences that I've surrounded myself with have taught me, and kind of where the mental and the social come together for me, because they taught me those things, right? How to talk to myself and the power of words. In fact, I even had some friends that were just shocked by some of the things I would say, and like that really woke me up. Like, oh, like what I just said about myself or to myself or whatever was not okay, and that our words are really powerful. that's been a huge shift in elevating myself and reaching my goals. You know, and it's not like being social. It comes pretty easy to me. I love being social. I'm outgoing, but there is a skill to it, and I still get nervous. You know, I want to reach out to someone. I've decided at this point, okay, they're a good person. They don't bring me down. They're kind. So at this point, I'm like, okay, well, I would love, to get to know them better. It's still nerve-wracking to text them, to reach out to them. They don't respond. It's been 2 minutes. It's been 5 minutes. It's been a couple months, right? So I've really learned to just assume the best, right? Again, if this is a person we've decided is a person that is going to be on our side, right?
Yes.
That we just assume the best, right? We don't know what's going on with people in their lives. And in that process and continue to reach out and making effort. But in that creation, like, what do I want to do? Like, what do I want to do that's fun? And how do I create that and create that experience with the people I want to be with, right? That's a skill. And we have to put ourselves out there and we have to put it into practice. So it doesn't come easy, but once you're aware and you recognize, okay, like, it's one of the pillars of social self-care. I need to be social, and everyone's needs are different, right? But for you what your needs are, how much you need, and then you just gotta do that.
Okay, you've heard it from the best. We have experts, people who have done this, they're living it, they know, sharing with us today, and I appreciate all of these shares. Again, there are 5 pillars of self-care, and it's important for you to find different things in each of these 5 pillars that you can practice every day to fill you up, to fuel you. Self-care is not just something that we do on the weekend. It's not just something that we do when we have no more energy and we're completely depleted. I know firsthand that when you practice self-care every single day, and when you choose something from each of these 5 pillars to focus on every day, you will create a life that feels good, that is fulfilling, that's rich, and you can create the best life, your best life. And it starts with self-care. As you practice self-care, you will also start to love yourself in ways that you didn't before, because you're filling yourself up first. And then you'll go out and you'll have all this energy and motivation to care for the other people in your life. Take care of you. Again, you can't give what you don't have. And you teenagers and young adults out there, I promise you, all of the parents who are joining us today are thinking, gosh, I wish I would have had this as a teenager. I wish someone would have given me these tools. I wish I would have known about the 5 pillars of self-care and why they matter. So start good habits, taking care of yourself today so that you can feel better and thrive in life. Hey, I have some really exciting news. I've got some things to give you for being here today, so thank you. First of all, I want to let you know you are invited to join a private Facebook group. If I don't have it already, you can send me your email or find me on Instagram or Facebook, Kate Strong World. I want to invite you to this Facebook group, this community. What we're going to do is we're committing to 69 days of self-care, practicing one thing in each of these 5 pillars every day for 69 days. We're starting July 25th. We're ending on October 1st, 2022. And we're going to practice these things. So I want you to refer to your self-care worksheet and choose one thing from the physical pillar, one thing from mental, one thing from emotional, spiritual, and social that you're going to practice every single day for 69 days. We're going to give you journal prompts in the Facebook group and motivational tips to help you stay going. There will be a community and a group to cheer you on along the way. And there will be ups and downs, and we are here to support you in that. So remember, refine your worksheet, get really clear, commit to one thing in each of the pillars for 69 days. Go and join this Facebook group now. And then I invite you to comment here on YouTube and share one thing that you learned today, something you're going to take away, so that when people come to watch this, they can hear from you. Give us a thumbs up, 5 stars, all the things. I appreciate you being here today. My last thing I'm going to ask for you is, what is one action you will take as a result of being here today? And write that down. What's one thing that you're going to do? Share it in the comments or just write it down. But again, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me. Please follow me. Stay in touch with what I have going on. I am a self-care advocate. I will help you dive deep. If this is just a taste of what I'm doing, if you want to go deeper, I would love to support you in that. Reach out to me anytime. hello@mystrongworld.com, and find me on social media. Thank you all for being here today. Happy International Self-Care Day.